Okay, so let's talk about Mayor Bill de Blasio and his many progressive planks to his platform. Bill de Blasio is incredible. Bill de Blasio is the one who normalized criticizing the police, along with Julian Castro and some of the other ones. Bill de Blasio is talking about getting energized and getting excited and saying that Democrats need to fight for the working class and they need to make sure that they stick with the working class. So let's listen to some of Bill de Blasio's.
Big change in this country. I know from personal experience it can be done. When I became the mayor of the nation's largest city, I set us on a path of bold change. They said it couldn't be done, but we gave pre-K to every child for free. We got rid of stop and frisk and we lowered crime. We raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Yes, it can be done. Now, tonight, we have to get to the heart and soul of who we are as Democrats. There are good people on this stage, but there are real differences. Joe Biden told wealthy donors that nothing fundamentally would change if he were president. Kamala Harris said she's not trying to restructure society. Well, I am. For 40 years, working people have taken it on the chin in this country. For 40 years, the rich have gotten richer, and they paid less and less in taxes. It cannot go on this way. When I'm president, we will even up the score, and we will tax the hell out of the wealthy to make this a fairer country and to make sure it's a country that puts working people first.
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Senator Michael Bennett.
I don't know if you heard that at the end there, but there was some heckling, okay? So at the very end, they're sitting there talking about fire Pantaleo. But then they shut up, and then they're going to bring this up again. But I just want to review. He talked about some of his policy planks. He's going to establish pre-K for all 3- and 4-year-olds. He's saying just do for America what we've done in New York City. In New York City, there's pre-kindergarten for all 3- and 4-year-olds. They stop and frisk. Crime has been lowered, and then they raised minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, the city did. He's the one that had raised the city workers' wages to $15 an hour, and he said that paved for New York City to raise it for $15 an hour for everybody. And he also wants to tax the wealthy. Right, tax the hell out of the wealthy. So these are all progressive planks to his platform. Also, he mentioned that Joe Biden said that nothing would fundamentally change with him as president to wealthy donors. So Joe Biden's going around to rich people saying, hey, when I'm president, nothing's going to change. Don't you worry, rich people. We're here to protect you. And Kamala Harris, she said she's not trying to restructure society. So, she doesn't sound radical at all. And here, Bill de Blasio, he's saying we need to restructure society. We need fundamental change. He's energized. He's exciting. He started the conversation about the police in the United States. And let's listen to actually some more hecklers, okay? They're going to heckle him some more about firing Pantaleo. Pantaleo is the one that killed Eric Garner in broad daylight. And, they said he was selling cigarettes. Was he? They haven't convicted him of this. As far as I'm concerned, Eric Garner was a hero. He stopped a fight, and then he got killed because of it.
Senator Cory Booker.
Thank you, Dana. Last week, the President of the United States attacked an American city, calling it a disgusting, rat-infested, rodent mess. We need a nation that understands that these tired, old language, Thank you very much. For just about everyone watching, when I say I would trust anyone on the stage much more than I would trust our current president on matters of criminal justice.
So they were sitting there heckling Cory Booker, but I think Bill de Blasio had just finished talking actually about police reform or something. So he just finished talking, and the hecklers are saying, fire Pantaleo, fire Pantaleo, fire Pantaleo. And then that's why there's going to be an administrative judge, and the administrative judge is going to fire Pantaleo right afterwards. Kirsten Gillibrand said Pantaleo should be fired, and then someone else said that he should be fired too. So when you have two presidential hopefuls telling you that you need to fire this person, but Mayor Bill de Blasio, I have nothing but respect for Bill de Blasio because he's having to take on that police union. They get all pissed off. Yeah, they murdered a man in broad daylight, but they're going to get mad as if like that's their job. That's their job, goddammit. Their job is to, make sure people die for, sunflowers. You raise a sunflower in Pueblo, that's illegal. You go down for that. You'll never raise sunflowers in this town again. So, if we actually want a police force that people can have confidence in, then that means when it comes to murder, rape, stealing, violence, child molesting, arson, when it comes to the big crimes of society, if they commit those crimes, they should be held to account just like everybody else. They're not above the law. They should go through the same rocket docket slaughterhouse the rest of us have to go through. But they never do because they know how unjust, criminally unjust the actual system is. So they'll never, anyways. So Pantaleo is going to get fired just after this, and it has a lot to do with the hecklers, and then they're going to talk about, Pantaleo. So let's listen in.
Tear each other down. We have to focus on beating Donald Trump in 2020. I want to share a story that a prison guard, a corrections officer.
This is Andrew Yang, who's for universal basic income because he wants to get rid of poverty. He actually gives a damn about people.
New Hampshire said to me, he said we should pay people to stay out of jail because we spend so much when they're behind bars. Right now, we think we're saving money. We just end up spending the money in much more dark and punitive ways. We should put money directly into people's hands, certainly when they come out of prison, but before they go to prison. Thank you, Mr. Yang. I want to bring in Senator.
So what Andrew Yang just said was that we're spending more money putting people into prison than to keeping them out of prison. So what, $700 a day? We don't mind paying $700 a day to, put them in a cage, but to give them food stamps, to give them, any assistance whatsoever, no. Housing, we're not going to help with affordable housing. Nope. We're just going to wait till, they commit a crime and then they stiff society for a much larger amount.
Gillibrand, you heard earlier Mayor de Blasio respond to Secretary Castro on the question of why the police officer who killed Eric Gardner is still on the NYPD. Was that response adequate?
So, Julian Castro asked how come with Bill de Blasio, Pantaleo is still on the force. So Julian Castro and Bill de Blasio, they're okay with criticizing the police, and now it's coming to Kirsten Gillibrand, the white woman with blue eyes, blonde hair. What's she going to say about this Pantaleo Eric Gardner case?
Response.
No, he should be fired. He should be fired now. I sat down with Eric Gardner's mother, and I can tell you, when you lost your son, when he begged for breath, when you know because you have a video, when you know he said, I can't breathe so many times over and over again, when you know he used an illegal chokehold, that person should be fired. And if I was the mayor, I'd fire him. But as president, I would make sure that we had a full investigation, that the report would be made public, and if I wasn't satisfied, we would have a consent decree.
I want to move your response to Governor Inslee. Oh, there's much more.
So that's actually a credible answer. Kirsten Gillibrand said that she's going to investigate it and she'd make the report public. So far, it's all been behind closed doors. And then she said, justice would prevail. And then she said a consent agreement or something at the very end there. What'd she say? Sign a consent agreement?
Full investigation, that the report will be made public, and if I wasn't satisfied, we would have a consent decree.
I want to move your response.
A consent decree? Consent decree?
What we see is this was a good example the other day of
So I want to just throw in different progressive planks of Bill de Blasio. So Bill de Blasio believes in expanding the public financing of elections. In New York City, he expanded public financing of elections. Bill de Blasio is pro-choice. So he's going to protect a woman's right to choose. He's criticized Alabama's abortion laws, which, I don't know, it's kind of low-hanging fruit, but that's, somebody needs to criticize their abortion laws. $800 million was spent to revitalize New York City schools. New York City has the most restrictive gun controls. I'm not a big gun control advocate, but a lot of progressives are. So he's in favor of gun controls in the United States. He only thinks that guns should just be used for, only cops can have guns, some bodyguards, and then those who prove that self-defense is absolutely necessary. So those are the three exceptions for essentially who's got guns in New York City. The police officers, bodyguards, those who prove that self-defense is absolutely necessary. He also has a pretty unique perspective. He wants to tax vacant storefronts. You got a storefront and it's vacant. It's making the town look like it's empty. It's a ghost town. People are leaving. You know, it brings down property values. So by taxing vacant storefronts, that's saying, you know, either get something in this business or we're going to continue to tax you for bringing down all of our property rights. So let's listen to more about Eric Gardner and Daniel Pantaleo.
The Department of Justice not going after Officer Pantaleo. That, you know, Officer Pantaleo used a chokehold that was prohibited by NYPD. He did that for 7 seconds, 11 different times. Eric Gardner said that he couldn't breathe. He knew what he was doing, that he was killing Eric Gardner, and yet he has not been brought to justice. That police officer should be off the street. Blasio, why is that police officer still on the force, the one who killed Eric Gardner? Let me tell you, I know the Gardner family. They've gone through extraordinary pain. They're waiting for justice, and they're going to get justice. There's finally going to be justice. I have confidence in that. In the next 30 days in New York. You know why? Because for the first time, we are not waiting on the federal Justice Department, which told the city of New York that we could not proceed because the Justice Department was pursuing their prosecution. And years went by, and a lot of pain accrued. And in the meantime, what I'm working on is making sure, and I have for 5 years, there will never be another tragedy. There will never be another Eric Gardner because we're changing fundamentally how we police.
Thank you,
But there's one last point I have to say about the Justice Department. The Vice President, for 2.5 of those years, Mr. Vice President, tell us, what did you do to try and spur on the Justice Department to act against Gardner?
Thank you, Mayor de Blasio. Vice President Biden, you can respond to that.
We did a lot. Number one, we made sure we reduced the federal prison population by 38,000 people.
So they asked him, what did he do with the Eric Gardner case? What did he do with Eric Gardner? Oh, we released 38,000 prisoners. Joe Biden, why don't you answer the damn question?
Number one. Number two, we in fact insisted that we changed the rules that the police engage in. We provided for body cameras. We made sure that there were a lot of things that were changed in the process. But 38,000 people in the federal system were released under the system. And so the fact is that there's a lot we've done. But here's the deal. The fact is that we're talking about things that occurred a long, long time ago. And now all of a sudden, you know,
It was only 5 years ago there, Joe Biden. And he did say body cameras, so Joe Biden's in favor of body cameras for the police, which is a great thing.
I find it fascinating. Everybody's talking about how terrible I am on these issues. Barack Obama knew exactly who I was. He had 10 lawyers do a background check on everything about me on civil rights and civil liberties, and he chose me, and he said it was the best decision he made.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Yang, your response?
So what did Joe Biden do about Eric Gardner and, you know, Daniel Pantaleo killing him? Not a goddamn thing. He didn't do a fucking thing. He just said that Obama chose me, you know. Obama extreme vetted me, and then Obama chose me. He picked me. Obama picked me. So what does that mean? What does that got to do with Eric Gardner? He released 38 prisoners. He's for body cameras, and Obama picked Joe Biden. So how come, you know, he didn't even answer the whole Eric Gardner question? So we're going to talk about health insurance. Mayor Bill de Blasio has been one of the biggest advocates for Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All program, including abolishing private health insurance companies, including the premiums and the co-pays and the deductibles. So Mayor Bill de Blasio, he's very strong. He's only, you know, there's only 3 candidates. You got Elizabeth Warren, Bill Sanders, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Bill de Blasio that's in favor of abolishing private insurance companies. They just need to get on board with Bernie's plan. Bernie's going to get his health care plan. He's going to get health care passed. The whole narrative, it's, you know, it's the main focus. It's at the forefront of everybody's mind. So really, you got past Bernie's health care plan. I mean, that's Bill de Blasio is attaching his star to Bernie Sanders' wagon. And he should, and it's a good idea. And let's just get government to run healthcare because it's a broken system. 27 million at least have no insurance. 80 million Americans have no insurance or are underinsured. So 27 million have fallen through the cracks. The emergency room is not a universal health care system. We spend more money on our health care system than what the Medicare for All, they want to say $30 trillion. It costs $50 trillion over 10 years if we just keep doing what we're doing. So Bernie Sanders' plan, while the $30 trillion price tag is pretty hefty, it's not $50 trillion. We're spending more on health care. We're spending more on health care than if we had government health care. So if you want to save money and get better care, then you'd be in favor of Bernie care. So Bill de Blasio has stood up. He's been confident. He's energetic. Fight for the working class. Fight for, all the things he's talked about, $15 minimum wage and this and that. He signed the Paris Climate Agreement by executive order for New York City after Donald had pulled out of it. And he's, wants comprehensive immigration reform. He has he's the mayor of New York City for the last 5 years. And he's a Boston Red Sox fan, so, imagine how awesome this guy has to be the mayor of New York City when he likes the Boston Red Sox, not the Mets, not the Yankees, but Boston's team, right? So, Bill de Blasio, when it comes to health care for New York City, he spent $100 million for low-income, uninsured, and undocumented in New York City. So he's doing his best to, get some kind of universal health care for New York City. So he's got a ton of progressive planks.
Blasio. Yeah, I don't understand why Democrats on this stage are fear-mongering about universal health care. It makes no sense. Ask the American people. They are sick of what the pharmaceutical companies are doing to them. Ask them what they feel about the health insurance companies. They feel it's holding back their families because they can't get the coverage they need. They get a lot of no's. They don't get a lot of help from health insurance companies. Why are we not going to be the party that does something bold? That says we don't need to be dependent on private insurance. We can have a system that actually covers everyone. You know what? Donald Trump won this state of Michigan by saying he was going to disrupt the status quo. How about we be the party that's going to disrupt the status quo for working people?
Mr. Mayor, just a 15-second point of clarification. Who are you talking about? Who's fear-mongering?
Certainly, with all due respect to Senator Bennett, what he's saying is absolutely inaccurate about taxes. Americans right now are paying so much money for their health care. Ask people about the reality of premiums, deductibles, co-pays, out-of-pocket expenses. That's worse than any tax.
Thank you.
And people are paying that right now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Senator Bennett.
This has nothing to do with Republican talking points.
So Bill de Blasio, he's calling for a millionaire's tax. He's against the TPP. He's against NAFTA. He's criticizing Donald's NAFTA 2.0, right? Oh, yeah, NAFTA was a horrible thing, and yet Donald's passing another NAFTA. Bill de Blasio grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He was born in New York. He was a New York councilman and a public advocate, which was the second most powerful position in New York City behind the mayor. His main point is essentially that we need a progressive. You had Hillary Clinton, she didn't have a clear progressive populist message. Hillary didn't have a clear progressive populist message. And so Bill de Blasio's, tenfold better than Hillary Clinton. He's got a very clear populist message. Agree or disagree, but he's got a record exactly, showing where he stands, and he also has the energy. He's got the Boris Johnson energy. So de Blasio's for comprehensive immigration reform. He's going to ask Joe Biden about the 3 million deportations under the Obama administration, the deporter-in-chief. So the Obama administration, they were very aggressive against the immigrants, which, allowed Trump to be even worse. And Bill de Blasio, he's also going to ask Beto O'Rourke, how come you're defending private insurance? So, again, he's, very, when it comes to universal health care, he's for a single payer, government-only plan, get rid of all the private insurance companies. He doesn't like TPP, NAFTA 2.0. He wants a millionaire's tax. He's talking about taxing the hell out of the rich. He passed New York City's version of a Green New Deal. Kamala co-sponsored AOC's Green New Deal, but Tulsi has not. Tulsi is good on bail bonds, but Kamala Harris and Bill de Blasio is good on the Green New Deal. Let's listen to some more.
Senator, if we as Democrats say We're done with private insurance that has only hurt the American people in so many ways. We're going to give them something that works for their families, full coverage, that they can depend on. If we say that, then there's an election. The American people get to decide. The ultimate choice, Senator, is an election. And this should be the party that stands for universal health care and says, we're not going to accept anything less. Right now in America, so many people don't have the health care they need. That is a fact. Tens of millions of people, including middle-class people. Give them a chance to make that decision through an election.
Vice President Biden, your response.
This is not a Republican talking point. The Republicans are trying to kill Obamacare. Obamacare took care of 20 million people right off the bat, 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. And in fact, what we got is a public option that in fact would allow anybody to buy in. No one has to keep their private insurance. They can buy into this plan. And they can buy into it with a $1,000 deductible and never have to pay more than 8.5% of their income when they do it. And if they
So it's fantastic. Joe Biden is now offering a public option, but they're totally opposed to a public option, 10 years ago. So we just got to wait 10 years to get breadcrumbs? Jesus, Joe.
you don't have any money, then you didn't freeze. So this idea is a bunch of malarkey, what we're talking about here. The fact of the matter is that there will be a deductible. There will be a deductible in our paycheck. Bernie acknowledges it. $30 trillion has to only be paid. And I don't know what math you do in New York. I don't know what math you do in California. But I tell you, that's a lot of money. And there will be a deductible. The deductible will be out of your paycheck because that's what will be required.
Senator Harris, I want to bring you in here.
So he's essentially defending Obamacare, the current system, and just adding a public option onto it, which is, that's not going to work. Bernie Care is going to repeal and replace Obamacare. Bernie Care will actually repeal and replace Obamacare. It gets rid of the ACA exchanges. So Bernie Care is the better way forward. Bernie Care guarantees us that we're going to get universal health care. We've been promised by Obama and Biden and by Hillary that we were going to get universal health care, and we still don't have universal health care. Only Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Bill de Blasio is going to get us universal health care. So I want to, Bill de Blasio, just super progressive. The legislation, he finds owners of large buildings that don't reduce their carbon emissions. So he's working on cleaning up New York and having better environment. He got pre-K, 3- and 4-year-olds are now in school. The enrollment's gone up 50,000 in New York City. He tried to reduce suspensions in public schools. It had mixed results, but he didn't like suspensions because people can't get their education if you keep suspending people. And he was also in favor of an education reform plan which cost $700 million, but people said had failed. But he put $700 million into education. So he's for finance and education. He's for, putting money into the thing. Sick and safe leave. He's going to brag about how he had a sick and safe leave. And so that's, 3 weeks or 1 month or so you get sick and you need to, stay home for a while. There's a sick and safe leave plan now that's in the law, and Bill de Blasio points it as one of his signature accomplishments. He also created a city ID for the undocumented. There's so many illegal immigrants in New York City that he's essentially said, we just need to fix these problems, and the way we're going to fix these problems is getting them a city ID. Let's get them on the map. They're here, and, unless we're going to deport all of them, which is going to sort of be like Nazi Germany, they're here, so here's a city ID. He reduced stop and frisk, signed the Criminal Justice Reform Act. 2018, New York City had the lowest homicides in 70 years. He wanted to eliminate the cash bail system. So does Tulsi Gabbard. She wants to eliminate the cash bail system. He also signed an LGBTQ healthcare Bill of Rights, and he allowed third non-binary gender option. Are you male or woman, or a third non-binary, or are you non-binary? So he's, respecting the LGBTQ community, and he's going to tax the hell out of the rich.
Go ahead, Mayor de Blasio, please, your response.
2 points. One, it's all kind of a charade because there's 11 million people here, and everyone in theory has broken the law, but they're part of our communities now. They're part of our economy. They're our neighbors. Why are we even discussing on one level whether it's a civil penalty or a criminal penalty when it's an American reality, and what we need is comprehensive immigration reform once and for all to fix it? Second, Vice President Biden, I didn't hear your response when the issue came up of all those deportations. You were Vice President of the United States. I didn't hear whether you tried to stop them or not, using your power, your influence in the White House. Did you think it was a good idea, or do you think it was something that needed to be stopped?
The President came along, and he's the guy that came up with the idea, first time ever, of dealing.
So it was Obama who come up with the idea of deporting 3 million, and then he's going to like, well, it wasn't, I told him what I thought, but I'm not going to sit here and tell everybody what I said. For history's sake, you should, Joe Biden. So Bill de Blasio, he's normalized criticizing the police. He's got a passionate defense of Bernie carries, a proud progressive. He loves the working class people. He wants to get the congressional power of war, the war powers, back to Congress. He says the police need the community and the police need a better relationship with each other. He wants to abolish the private prison, tax the hell out of the rich, protects LGBTQ health care rights. He wants to eliminate the cash bail system. He has a criminal justice reform act, reduce stop and frisk, create a city ID for the undocumented, sick and safe leave. He signed into law pre-K, 3 and 4-year-olds in school, enrollment up 70,000 from 20,000, so 50,000 increase. Tried to reduce suspensions, didn't work, but he tried to have a better education reform plan, spent $70 million on it. Some people say it's failed. Anti-TPP, NAFTA, Donald Trump's NAFTA 2.0, he's opposed to it. He's for a millionaire's tax. He's got a new Green New Deal for New York City. And then, he's sitting there asking Beto O'Rourke, how come why are you defending private insurance? Asking Joe Biden, how come you deported 3 million, undocumented folks under your administration? Your immigration policy was one of the, most draconian and fascist that we've seen in decades. He says that Hillary needed a better, clear, progressive, populist message. He raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour. He's, the mayor of New York City, even though he's a Boston Red Sox fan. So that should just show you how much they like him. In spite of him loving, the wrong team, they still elected him with 67% of the vote. So he got overwhelming majority of New Yorkers to vote for him. So everybody just shitting on Bill de Blasio because he's so awesome, he's so good. You just don't like him because he's in a position of authority, but he's using that power for good. So I don't know what the problem, why people have, an issue with Bill de Blasio, because he's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with the congressman, but I don't hear an answer from the vice president. I'm confused. I asked the vice president point blank, did he use his power to stop those deportations? He went right around the question. Mr. Vice President, you want to be President of the United States. You need to be able to answer the tough questions. I guarantee you, if you're debating Donald Trump, he's not going to let you off the hook. So did you say those deportations were a good idea? Or did you go to the president and say, this is a mistake, we shouldn't do it? Which one?
I was vice president. I am not the president. I keep my recommendations in private. Unlike you, I expect you would go ahead and say whatever was said privately with him. That's not what I do. What I do say to you is he moved to fundamentally change the system. That's what he did. That's what he did. But much more has to be done. Much more has to be done.
Still don't hear an answer. Booker, please respond.
Well, a couple things. First of all, Mr. Vice President, you can't have it both ways. You invoke President Obama more than anybody in this campaign. You can't do it when it's convenient. Right? Thank God it's not. And the second thing is it really irks me because I heard the Vice President say that. If you got a PhD, you can come right into this country. Well, that's playing into what the Republicans want, to pit some immigrants against other immigrants. Some are from shithole countries, and some are from worse countries. We need to reform this whole immigration system and begin to be the country that says everyone has worth and dignity, and this should be a country that honors everyone. Don't let the Republicans divide this party against itself.
So he's criticizing Joe Biden. Joe Biden said, if you got a PhD, you come on in. But then meanwhile, 3 million got deported. So who's worthy, who's not, Joe? PhD, that's going to be competition for us. No, we need to be like, the weakest link. The weakest link, you got 4 people, and you're not the smartest. And even though you can carry the smartest up to the final round, it's better to just get rid of the smartest so that way you're, the head cheese in town. I'm not actually, it seems smart to bring smart people over, but we need, we can create people who are intelligent here, and we can run stuff. If we can't, how come? What's wrong with, our system?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
The fact is, that's what I said about this country. We are a country of immigrants. All of us. All of us. Some here came against their will. Others came because they, in fact, thought they could fundamentally change their lives. And they did. The statute of Send Us Your. That's what we're talking about. That's what made us great. And the fact of the matter is, I think the President of the United States, Barack Obama, went out of his way to try to change the system, and he